morning. Shall we start?
One minute. We are trying in broadcasting. Just 1 minute. We'll be back.
Yeah. Okay. No issue.
Can you put full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we start the session now, sir?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, warm welcome. Good morning to all the participants and the speaker. We, the staff members of CIT, Coimbatore Institute of Technology, are happy to invite you for our webinar series 1.0. A brief introduction about our speaker. Today's speaker, Dr. R. Ratan Raj. Dr. R. Ratan Raj was born in 1979 at Virudhunagar district, Tamil Nadu. He obtained his bachelor's from Bharathiar University, Coimbatore in 2002 and master's in structural engineering in 2004 from Anna University, Chennai. He has started his research career from the year 2007 and he obtained his doctoral degree in civil engineering in the year 2014 from Anna University, Chennai. His research interest includes high performance concrete with different mineral admixtures, concrete with nanomaterials, and polymer and fiber reinforced concrete. He worked as a professor and as a head of the Department of Civil Engineering in Wales University, Chennai, and currently working as a lecturer in Civil and Architectural Engineering section, Department of Civil Engineering, Salana College of Engineering, Sultanate of Oman. He has got 16 years of teaching experience. He published 15 papers in international and national level journals and presented 29 papers in international and national level conferences. He has guided nearly 40 projects in UG and PG levels. He has organized 11 workshops, 1 national and 3 international conferences. He is a life member of various professional bodies such as MIST, AMIE, and MICI. Now I request our speaker to take the session.
Thank you for.
Over to you, sir.
Yes. Thank you for your brief introduction about me. I also extend my warm welcome to all the participants. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present my investigation on the topic studies on corrosion behavior of ternary blended concrete in the webinar series 1, which is now organizing by Department of Civil Engineering, Coimbatore Institute of Technology. So the Coimbatore Institute of Technology is well related to me. I thank the organizer, as well as I thank the head of the department, Dr. Sri Shanti ma'am also. Thank you. Let me go into the presentation. So I'm Dr. Ratan Raj. Currently, I'm working as a lecturer in Salalah College of Technology, Sultanate of Oman. So my presentation outline will be as follows. So I'm going to discuss with you a brief review and also introduction about the corrosion and the materials. Then particularly the classification of the materials, physical and chemical compositions, and what are the materials which was selected for this study. It's XRD and the scanning electron microscopic images, and the diffusion coefficient of the concrete, corrosion resistance, and some results and its discussion on the findings. So when we talk about the corrosion, it is the only responsible for up to 90% of the damages to reinforced concrete structure.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse
Yes.
me.
Yes. I'm hearing you.
There is an echo from you. There is some recording from you. Can you mute that?
Yeah. Is it okay now?
No, it is again. Okay.
Is it okay?
You can press.
Okay. So as I already said that the corrosion is the responsible for nearly 90% of damages to the reinforced concrete structure. What is corrosion? So the corrosion may be defined in different terminologies, but as per the American standard testing methods, they defined as the chemical or an electrochemical reaction between the material, usually particularly it is a metal, and its environment that produces a deterioration of the material and its property. So why does the steel in concrete get corroded? Even the embedded steel or the rebar inside the concrete is usually in a non-corroding and which is in the passive condition. Then why does this concrete get corroded? So it is mainly because of the two action on the concrete. Only one is based on the electrochemical reaction, and another one is a carbonation. Let me discuss briefly about what is electrochemical reaction in terms of the corrosion and also the carbonation. So when before the corrosion starts, the steel is in the passive state. So after that, because of these reactions, electrochemical reactions or the carbonation, so the corrosion start on the reinforcement, and it will be built up on the surface of the reinforcement. Further, the corrosion reaches to the surface by means of a crack. So it is called as a cancer of the concrete. So when you look at the reinforced concrete on the surface, it is the years together the reaction will taking over place. We cannot see what is happening inside the concrete. So once it reaches to the surface on the concrete, then only we can able to we can able to identify there are some cracks formed on the building. So if we are not aware about this kind of a crack, finally what will happen? So there will be eventually falling on the concrete. So after falling on the concrete, if you see that the full rod gets corroded, and that particular time we have to do more remedy or some remedial measures we have to take for in terms of the repairing of the concrete. So once in the reinforced concrete, any cracks is available, immediately the necessary care to be taken to avoid the more corrosion and also the spoiling of the concrete. Now, particularly when we talk about the reinforcement corrosion, there are two different corrosions. One is electrochemical corrosion, that is called as the chlorine corrosion. Another one is carbonation. So the electrochemical corrosion or the carbonation is all due to because of that some reactions only, the external forces. Now, particularly when we talk about the chloride induced corrosion in a steel reinforcement, the concrete is often used to serve an environment where seawater or some desink salts are present. So when some
Excuse me.
to,
Can you hold for a minute, sir? There is some technical issue in broadcasting. Just a minute, please.
yeah, please.
Sir, you can continue. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I am talking about the chloride induced corrosion. So this is only due to because of that seawater or some desink salts present nearby, or sometime it may be adhere to also. So when chloride moves into the concrete, it disturbs that the passive layer protecting the steel, causing to the rust, or it is called as a pit on the concrete. So this is called it as this corrosion is termed as the localized corrosion. So when we talk about the next corrosion, corrosion due to the carbonation, this corrosion is called as a generalized corrosion. So in concrete, the concrete get attack carbonates to the level of the steel rebar, the normally the alkaline environment which protects steel from the corrosion is replaced by more natural environment. Under these conditions, the steel is not passive and rapid corrosion it starts begins. So this corrosion, carbonation corrosion will occur maybe after 10 years or after 20 years, and it will not start immediately. That this carbonation corrosion will not start immediately if suppose we are using a high performance concrete or high strength concrete or very high dense concrete. So years together it will take. After that only, due to some deterioration on the concrete, the porous structure, this concrete corrosion taking place. So due to this carbonation on the concrete, it will reach and it will affect the passive layer on the steel. So first we have to know what is actually carbonation. Carbonation is nothing but, so the cement reaction, the hydration process, when the cement react with the water, and it will convert it to calcium hydroxide. That is the important element which will give the strength to the concrete. As we already know that there are bogies components, four bogies components, the C2S and C3S. These all are helpful to improve the strength of the concrete. So how it will improve the strength of the concrete? By forming a calcium hydroxide solution, calcium hydroxide element. So that calcium hydroxide, some calcium hydroxide left in the concrete, it will not react with not sufficient of water available. So that calcium hydroxide will react with the carbon dioxide present on the atmosphere, and that will convert to calcium carbonate. This is called the carbonation. So this will taking our place years together, but it is not in the case of chlorine induced corrosion. When the concrete surface is exposed to some desink salts or seawater, so automatically the the chlorine content will absorbed by the concrete, and it will reach to the surface of the rebar, and it will immediately affect the passive layer on the rebar. Now this picture shows that the chlorine induced corrosion. The first picture shows that chlorine induced corrosion. This is the bridge, how it was see the picture how it was damaged. This is all due to because of the chlorine induced. And this picture, this is the beam connected to the slab. So on the bottom surface of the steel totally affected. Corrosion, this corrosion is due to because of the carbonation only. So what will happen? Immediately the spalling of the concrete taking over place due to because of the corrosion. Now, what are the factors influencing the chloride threshold? So when we talk about particularly the chloride induced corrosion, it is depends on many factors. The first factor is what is the type of cement we are using. The cement, that sense, what is the fineness of the cement, amount of the gypsum available, and what are all the blending materials. That means the composition of the material. So we have to very careful about what is the composition of the materials which will be available in the cement. And also, if suppose we are going to use some supplementary cementitious material, that also we have to be very clear, and we have to be knowledge in that what is the chemical compositions available. And the second one is water cement ratio. So we are using the different water cement ratios for improving the strength of the concrete by lowering the water cement ratio. If you lower the water cement ratio, we have to take care about is there is any porosity on the concrete. That means if there is any voids in the concrete. So we have to take necessary care in the compaction also. So the next point states that the curing and also the compaction. So what type of a curing, whether we are going for a the water curing, whether that curing is done for 28 days or what kind of a curing method we are going to use. And then during preparation of the concrete, the compaction is done well or not. This all leads to the porosity. And the another one, after construction, if suppose the concrete surface exposed to some moisture content, some places it will be very rainy in nature, and some places in the cold weathering region, it is always in the moist condition. The surface will be in the moist condition. Some variation of the weathering action also taking over place. Some wetting and some drying. These all are causes the corrosion or the chloride induced. And then the type of steel, what type of steel we are using, and the surface roughness of the steel, and then the condition at the present condition on the steel, we are what type of steel we are using, and then the oxygen availability. So these are all the factor is influencing the chlorinated corrosions. Now, particularly when we talk about the effect on the pH on corrosion. So when we see the concrete have always the pH value higher than the value of the 10. So the metal becomes passive and corrosion rate decrease with always increasing amount of the pH value. So normally when the concrete is to be used, the pH value is nearly 11 to 13.5. So approximately it will take that the average value always will be taken as 12.5. So what is actually the pH on the corrosion? So the reinforcing steel in the concrete is usually in the passive state, as we know that due to because of the high alkalinity of the concrete. It is because of the pore solution, the concrete pore solution. However, the passivity may be lost, and the corrosion occurs on the steel by the decreasing of the pH due to carbonation. So as already told that the carbonation is not happening immediately. After maybe 10 years or 15 years or 20 years only, you can able to identify the carbonation, that calcium hydroxide converted to calcium carbonate. This will happen due to because of the losing of the pH on the concrete. So the steel bar used in reinforced cement concrete is protected from the corrosion due to because of only this high amount of the pH environment, where steel becomes more passive. So due to carbonation or use of some sodium chloride for ice breaking, that chlorine ion in coastal region may bring the value level significantly and affecting the steel, and then the corrosion starts. So a higher pH means there are fewer free hydrogen ions. Low pH clearly accelerate the corrosion by providing a plentiful supply of hydrogen ion. Now this picture shows that we all know that the iron content, when it will be in anode, and due to because of that lower pH value, some carbonation taking over place. So there is a two negative electron will separate, and that negative electron will react with the moisture content, or simply it is a water content. It will convert to hydrogen ions. So more hydrogen ions developed in the concrete, and it will affect the reinforcement. Then the pitting corrosion will start. So in case of reinforcement corrosion, what is its consequences after the corrosion? So this figure is the most simple and descriptive model for the service life of a reinforced concrete. So when we talk about the corrosion will not taking our place immediately unless the steel contacted to water, because we are saying that it is a reinforced concrete. The reinforced concrete have a hardened material, and the concrete which we are using a non-porous material by using of a well compaction. So initiation period will take more time. Once the initiation start, it is all due to because of the relative humidity on the particular region, the temperature, and also how much of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and sometimes the chlorine present, it is nearby some seawater penetration or any deep salt. So due to all depends on the factor, it will start the corrosion. So once the corrosion initiated, then immediately it will prolong, it will propagate. So we cannot prevent unless otherwise. If we identify that the cracks developed on the concrete, then only we will get to know that the corrosion taking over place on the reinforced concrete. So this is well-known model, and it is considered that an initiation period which consists of the time from the erection of the structure until the aggressive agents. The agents may be a chloride or maybe a carbonation, and it reaches the rebar and depassivate the steel. So that passivation layer immediately will get affected, and it will convert it to depassivate. And then a propagation period from the steel depassivation until a certain unacceptable level of deterioration is developed in the structure. So there are three main phenomena when we talk about the reduction of the structural capacity, or the reduction of the reduction of the strength of the reinforced concrete element. So it will affect by rebar corrosion, and it is mainly due to that the three main phenomena which are directly consequences of the corrosion. What are the phenomena? The number one phenomena is reduction of the rebar section due to corrosion, and the second one is a reduction of the bond strength. The third phenomena is loss of concrete integrity due to cover cracking and also leads to the spalling of the concrete. Now there are some preventing methods we can prevent the corrosion. So variety of methods are available nowadays preventing the corrosion. So at least when we use that methods, we can slow down the corrosion process. The most common preventing methods are galvanization method, cathodic protection method, electrochemical chloride migration, that is called as a desalination method, realkalization method, and the fifth one is corrosion inhibitor, and it leads to it is only because of the repair techniques. So particularly these all the first four methods, it having well known. If you go through the internet or if you see some literature, there are these methods are methods you will get what is the process, what is the procedure to be adopted for this method. So particularly I want to talk about the corrosion inhibitors, because nowadays the people are using more amount of the corrosion inhibitor in the concrete when the starting stage itself. Before and all, when we talk about the 10 years or 20 years later, people not aware about for applying some non-corrosive paints or some applying some chemicals on the steel rebar. So now in the major construction, even in the smaller construction, people are very much aware about before starting the construction, or the steel reinforcement embedded into the concrete. First, before the laying, the steel rebars are applied with some chemicals. So what is actually corrosion inhibitor? It is a chemical compound. The various types of the chemical compounds nowadays available in the market. So that when we added, it decreases the corrosion rate of the material. So particularly there are many types of the corrosion inhibitors are available. So it is related to the anodic inhibitor or cathodic inhibitor. Sometimes we will get the mixed inhibitor, volatile corrosion inhibitor. These are all the different types of corrosion inhibitors are available. How it will work, the corrosion inhibitor, how it will work? So that inhibitors work by the formation of a coating on material. It is formed in some coating. So whenever a coating on the material taking over place, which will prevent the access of the corrosion substances to the material surfaces by protecting the passive layer. So the inhibitor molecules either attack to the metal or react with the surface to form a thin and adherent layer. This is the way that the corrosion inhibitors work. In the market nowadays, many type of corrosion inhibitors are available. Sometimes it will be in the form of a chemical substances, or in the form of a liquid, or in the form of a paint. So in this decade, actually, all the construction companies, either a small company to a big company, they are using the corrosion inhibitor. So nowadays, this is the common the way of method to preventing the corrosion is using the corrosion inhibitor in the construction sector. So now, when we talk about the corrosion, so people started very earlier to develop a high strength concrete or a high performance concrete, particularly in the corrosion on the reinforced concrete. So they want to develop more dense concrete by using the different different materials, incorporating some chemicals, incorporating some mineral admixture, incorporating some chemical admixture, by developing a high strength concrete and high performance concrete. So we are more concentrated about how to develop the strength on the concrete. So when we talk about the high strength concrete, it is high strength concrete or high performance concrete, it is only the concrete. So the concrete means how much amount of the concrete is being utilized per year. It was the status says that every year 6 billion tons is utilizing in the construction industries. So when we talk about the concrete utilization, we should talk about the cement. So for all these developing of high strength concrete or high performance concrete or any other kind of a concrete, the basic ingredient is a cement. So the cement production, it will emit carbon dioxide. For example, 1 ton of cement production, it will emit nearly 0.8 to 1.5, 1.3 ton of carbon dioxide in the dry process. And normally, people are saying that if 1 ton of cement production, nearly it will emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide. And also, moreover, the world cement production generated around nearly 2.2 billion tons of CO2, and it is equivalent to 8% of the global total emission of carbon dioxide. See that particularly in the cement production, there are 8% of the global total emission it will hold. So we have to minimize the cement content also, but at no way we have to maintain the strength of the concrete. Now when we talk about the CO2 emission, nearly the another one is SO2 emission. It is also very high depending on the fuel which is used. It leads to the acid rain. And the another one point, when we use the cement more, how much energy it consumed, and also it is very high because we are producing the cement by the dry processes and by using huge amount of the heat. So that will be nearly 100 to 150 kilowatt per ton of cement produced. The energy was consumed. All these points nowadays that SCMs are to be used. So the performance of the Portland cement has been enhanced through the various uses of the supplementary cementitious material, that we know that. So initially, when the supplementary cementitious materials was used only to improve the performance of the concrete, later we will find that in the another aspect is the cost reduction in the building. So the cement replaced with these supplementary cementitious material, automatically the cost will be will be minimized. So not only the cost will be minimized, we can reduce the carbon dioxide emissions and the SO2 emissions also. In all the developing countries now they are doing. So when we particularly talk about the supplementary cementitious material, this will be divided into two main groups. One is a natural Barcelona, another one is a artificial, or it is called as a man-made Barcelona. Artificial Barcelonas includes some industrial waste, some agricultural waste, and the byproducts from the mining and the mineral industries. So agricultural waste are due to because of the man-made effect. It is due to because of some industries. And now particularly the byproducts from the mining and mineral industries, they produced huge amount of the waste, which is called as a byproducts. It is not otherwise put in any use. Only a limited byproducts are identified, that which is rich in silica and rich in calcium, and some chemical components which is satisfying the cement. Moreover, it is equal to the cement also. That is being nowadays used widely. We'll discuss one by one. So we'll talk about the classification of the waste and byproducts. So that is one report from the Energy and Resource Institute. That Terry report, it is called as the Terry report. The Terry report grouped into three groups the classification of the waste and byproducts. So these are all, the list shows that the group 1 waste and byproducts, that group 1 material have been characterized by the property like the soundness, strength, shape, abrasion resistance, grading, and they find one or other uses in the building material. These are all well known, and some of the materials are are regularly using in the constructions by means of the production of the cement, particularly fly ash. So in 30 years back, people were used to replace the conventional cement, ordinary Portland cement, to the ordinary Portland cement by replacing the fly ash. So nowadays we know the Portland Barcelona cements are available everywhere. It is in the fly ash based, or sometimes it may be in the slag based cement also it is available. So now that ordinary Portland cement converted to the another product, the Portland Barcelona cement, in terms of fly ash, in terms of slag. These are all main two type of the cement. It is nowadays it is being utilized in India. So some other waste and byproducts is still now there are some hindrance which will be come in the product. For example, the silica fume. Silica fume, more amount of the silica content is available, but there is no such kind of a cement. For example, Portland Barcelona cement with silica fume based, we don't have. Similarly, these are all the group of the group 1 classification: boiler ash, bottom ash, scrap iron, scrap aluminium, stone waste, feldspar waste, china clay waste, burnt tile waste, phosphor gypsum, fluorogypsum, borogypsum, anthracite coal residue. These are all well characterized, and we know very well of the characterization of the material, and it is quietly good to replace with the cement, but still we know we have to identify the property of the material in terms of workability, in terms of mechanical, or in terms of durability properties. And the group 2 waste, the Terry report classified the group 2 waste. The group 2 material are used to a limited scale because they require some processing. So before utilizing into the concrete, it requires some processing. So that's why these materials are grouped into the second group. Some of them did not quite satisfy the unhindered utilization or conforming to the Indian standards also. So the group 1 waste are determined and it confirmed the Indian standard because it is moreover the chemical composition, it is as much equal to the cement. Sometimes one chemical compound is more amount, sometimes it may be less amount, but all the chemical compounds are available. But it is not in the case of group 2 waste. Group 2 waste, some of the material are quite unsatisfactory because of it is not conforming to the Indian standards. But still now there are some few waste is not been properly identified by knowing the by identifying the properties. So if you could start the research on the particular material, if you start research on the characterization from the starting from the characterization and studying the property, it is a good research also. It is a good result. That outcome will be you will get the good outcome. These are all the group 2 waste. Now the group 3 waste, these have been investigated quite thoroughly, but there are no standards. No such standards are available. That's the specifications. It is all due to because of that unwanted some undesirable constitutions like alkalis and also P2O5 SO3 titanium oxide. These are all present on this material. So this group 3 waste we have to more careful when we are selecting for utilizing into the concrete, and most probably this waste to be avoided, unless if you want to use this waste you have to be very careful. You have to know the characterization, the properties, physical and chemical composition. After studying all these, then we can start with the replacing with the cement. These are all the 3 classifications. So in here, in this research or this investigation, here I used metacoilin and red mud as a supplementary cementitious material. So metacoilin is a natural bazolona. Technically it is called as a quiolinate product. That quiolinate product is a formation of the quioline, which is abundantly in India. We have in two places. One is Jharkhand, another one is Kerala, Kundara in Kerala. So this material obtained from English Indian Clay Limited, which is located in Kerala, and that metacoilin is technically called it as metasem, or commonly it is called as a China clay material. So after 800 degree of the coilinate product, this metasem or metacoilin are produced. This is a natural bazolona, and the red mud is nothing but the waste product from the alumina and alumina related industry. This waste material, which was obtained from Malco industry located in the Erode. So after extraction of the alumina, this is the waste material which enriched with the caustic soda. That means a high amount of the pH value. It will left as a waste material. So why I selected this red mud as a supplementary cementitious material? Because only because of high amount of the pH, and this material is acting as a good corrosion inhibitor on the reinforced concrete. So the number one waste, the metacoilin, is from the group 1 waste. Red mud is from the group 2 waste. So as already I indicated that the group 2 waste, some of them are characteristics well, some of them are non-characteristic well. Let me explain the physical and chemical composition, then you will understand why I selected this metacoilin and why I selected this red mud. So now this is the physical properties of the cement. No wonder the physical properties you know very well. So I don't want to discuss elaborately. Come to the physical properties of the metacoilin. The purpose why I selected the metacoilin is only due to because of the bazolonic reactivity. To have a more amount of the bazolonic reactivity due to because of the silica content and calcium content present on the material. And physical property in the red mud, it is having a pH value. So this was at that particular time, the physical the particular time, that pH value is more than 10.25. So this 10.25 is maintained throughout the concrete life. So the chemical composition of the cement, metacoilin and red mud. So particularly as I already told that whatever the supplementary cementitious material or replacing material to be used for the concrete, we should more concern about what are the chemical components are available. For example, in the metacoilin, the silica content is very, very high amount, 52.3%. And unwanted the Al2 content, aluminum content is also available at that particular one. So it is depends on the variation of the extraction and also the time dependent. At the particular time, that was the amount was very high, and iron content is very, very less amount only. But in the red mud, see that there is no silica content. Alumina content and iron content are very high. Calcium content is very, 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 very less in amount. Some unwanted alkalis also present nearly the Na2O. It is high amount of 4.11, and some other alkalis also found TiO2 and everything. Let me discuss about in the XRD. So why it is needed, the XRD pattern of the cement, XRD of the supplementary cementitious material. So we have to be in situation to identify what are the elements present on the material. So when we see only the chemical composition, we cannot know much easily. So we have to identify what are the particular elements, whether that element is a reactive element or not. We have to identify. So this is the XRD pattern of the cement, which will which will identify the peak and the low curve. Each point will be identified. That elements are C is a calcite element. Wherever you are seeing the C, it is all calcite element, and CS is a calcium silicate. P is a Portlandite, and Q is a quicklime. Quicklime is nothing but the calcium oxide. Calcium oxide is the calcium content. Okay, right. Now the CS content is the calcium silicate content. So before hydration, in the cement, it have more amount of the calcium silicate, unreactive one. So when it will react with the water, that calcium silicate will convert to calcium silicate hydrate in the form of C3S, in the form of C2S, and furtherly it will react with the silica content present on the material, and more amount of the calcium silicate hydrate bonds will be improved. It's a hexagonal bond which will improve the strength of the concrete. Now, when we talk about, when we see the XRD pattern of the metacoilin, see this XRD pattern, there are only two important elements are identified. One is quartz, another one is mica. It's called muscovite. These are all the two elements are identified. And in the XRD of red mud, see that many chemical composition or elements are identified. Some of the elements are calcite, gypsite, hematite, hydrocarbonate, and perovskite, quartz, and rutile. See, the unwanted and undesirable material called rutile is identified in this material. This rutile is nothing but a titanium oxide. So this is the SEM image of the cement particle, and this is the SEM image of the metacoilin. This is the SEM image of the red mud particle. See, I have more SEM images related to the hydrated the cement paste, but in here I am going to talk about only the corrosion. So I don't want to discuss with you the SEM images of the hydration products. So now come to the corrosion. When we talk about the corrosion, we should talk about the diffusion coefficient. So the diffusion coefficient is notated by DC. The DC of chloride ions. So that is increases with the rise in water binder ratio and decreases with the rise in quality of the mineral admixture or some additives. So when we use some additives like a mineral admixture replacing the cement, high amount of increasing the amount of the mineral admixture, surely there is a decreasing value of the diffusion coefficient. So diffusion coefficient tended to increase with increased voltage of 30 volt in a steady state method. When we maintain the 30 volt in the steady state method, automatically the diffusion coefficient value is increasing. The effective diffusion coefficient can be calculated from the upstream flux or from the downstream flux of the chlorine ion, but the result during the steady state was similarly. We can that elaborately we can see in here. So for a diffusion coefficient, there are two methods nowadays are being used to identifying the for finding the diffusion coefficient. So very common method is rapid chloride penetration test. This is based on as per American Standard Testing Method C120297. Nowadays in the literature you can see the another one method which is called as accelerated chloride ion diffusion test, which is simply it is called as ACID. So this is nothing but this is a modified RCPT, that rapid chloride permeability test only, and also it is also confirming ASTS 1202. There is no separate code is available, and the procedures are same as like what we what is the procedure is used for rapid chloride permeability test. This is the detailed drawing of a diffusion cell. So the diffusion cell consists of the two chamber or two containers. So one container to be acting as a negative, another container to be acting as a positive. In the negative, NaCl solution is used, sodium chloride solution is used, and in the positive, NaOH of 3 normality solution was used, and it will be. This is the disc, the concrete disc of 50 mm thickness, 100 mm dia, which is carefully sealed with some sealant to prevent the solution come out from the chamber and it will be screwed up. This is the schematic view of a diffusion cell. So now these are all the picture shows that. So initially the concrete cylinder was casted. The diameter is 100 mm. The height of the concrete is 200 mm. That concrete is cutted with use the diamond cutter with the 3 parts. So each one is, so this is the top portion, this is the middle portion of concrete, and this is the bottom portion of the concrete. Each disc of 50 mm thickness. So each and every top, middle, and bottom are separately fixed in the diffusion cell. So this is the diffusion cell. This is before the sealant applied. So now here in this this is the RCPT apparatus, 6L RCPT apparatus, and here the sealant are applied to prevent the solution coming out from the container. So this is the full setup of RCPT, and here from the RCPT, rapid chloride penetration, the charge pass, the Q value was calculated by using these relations. So every 30 minutes interval, this value is to be obtained from the ammeter value. That is the varying of ammeter value. So that is the current value obtained from the ammeter. So after substituting all these values, so I0 is the initial current. When we start at the time of the current, what is the current? Then every 30 minutes interval, I30, I60, I90, like this, up to 360, the current was measured. After substituting in this relation, we will get the charge passed value, Q value. So the diffusion coefficient value is to be calculated by using the Burke's equation. After substituting the Q value in this Burke's equation, we will get the diffusion coefficient. So DC is the diffusion coefficient. This is the Burke equation. So here only one variable is the charge passed, the Q value. After that, we will get some value which will be denoted in meter squared per second. So the limitation of the chloride diffusion permeability. So what is the limitations? So if the coulombs value, so the charge ion passed Q value is calculated in coulombs. If more than 4,000, we can conclude that the chloride permeability is a very, very high in amount. 2,000 to 4,000, it is a moderate value. 1,000 to 2,000 coulomb value, the chloride permeability is is low, and 100 to 1,000 coulombs, it is very low. When it is less than 100 coulombs, it is a negligible. There is no chloride permeability. Based on this coulombs value, we can conclude, or we can identify the produced concrete having a good concrete, or in terms of chloride permeability, is a good, or it is low, or is a moderate. Now, when we talk about the corrosion resistance, there are two different types of the specimens to be used for identifying the corrosion of the steel reinforcement. So one is macro cell corrosion specimen. So which will be looking like that. Always for the macro cell corrosion, the concrete beam or a rectangular specimen is casted, which having a 3 rods. Normally the rod is 10 mm thickness of the rod. One is acting as an anode, another 2 is acting as a cathode. This will be connected to the potentiostat, and then the epoxy resins all are applied on the surface of the concrete. At the top, there is one container which is fixed, and it will be sealant by using some. It will be sealed by using some sealant, and then sodium chloride solutions are allowed to stay inside the container. So after some period of the time, 15 days, or sometimes we go for 30 days due to the period of time. So due to that, the chloride content present in the sodium chloride, it will it will absorbed by the concrete, and it will reaches to the anode, and it will affect the passive layer on the steel. So in this way, the macro cell corrosion test to be done. So the another one test is called as a accelerated corrosion cell specimen. So this accelerated corrosion cell specimen always will be in a rectangular beam or a cylindrical specimen. It is also called as a impressed current test setup, electrochemical system, and normally it is called as accelerated corrosion setup. So in this research, I used the accelerated corrosion setup. This is the accelerated corrosion setup. We have a container. The container is filled with the sodium chloride solution. This is the concrete. The concrete is embedded with the rebar. And some PVC sleeves are used to prevent the corrosion at the top place. So carefully it is immersed into the solution up to the 3/4, or sometimes it may be only half of the solution only. The diameter of the bar here, it is used 60 mm diameter bar, and it is connected with the positive. This is called as an anode, and for cathode, the negative connection, a copper plate was used. So to create the aggressive environment, we have to use the sodium chloride solution. So here 3.5% of the sodium chloride was used, and which is acting as an electrolyte. And half of the cylinder or 3/4 of the cylinder was immersed in this salt water. Regular DC power supply of 0.2 milliamps per centimeter squared is supplied continuously throughout the corrosion period of 15 days. And the positive terminal of voltmeter is connected with the reinforcement. Negative terminal is connected with the copper plate, which is acting as a cathode. So now this picture shows that the entire setup of the accelerated corrosion cell setup. And here, all the rods anode is connected to the positive, and here this is the plate, copper plate, which is connected to the negative as acting as a cathode. Okay, right. So after 15 days of period, the corrosion taking place by forming the cracks, developing of the cracks on the concrete. And see that at the bottom, which shows that the color changes, it obviously know that there was a corrosion. And after that, by using a split tensile method, carefully the concrete is splitted, and carefully that reinforcement taken away from the concrete. And these are all the reinforcement, particularly in the most severe condition. This is the corroded rod after 15 days of accelerated corrosion. So what is the probability of the corrosion? So as like that, for measuring the potential that in millivolt from the ammeter reading, we can conclude the probability of the corrosion if it is a low or some uncertain or greater than 90% of the probability of the corrosion. We can say that. So now I want to discuss with you some few results very fastly. Based on these two methods, diffusion coefficient and the chloride resistance. Here I used metakaolin as one supplementary cementitious material separately, red mud as a supplementary cementitious material, and the combination with the metakaolin and red mud with the different propositions like 50:50 ratio, 60:40, 70:30, and 80:20. And also there are 4 different types of high strength concrete was developed with the varying of water binder ratio. The water binder ratios are 0.40, 0.38, 0.36, and 0.33, which shows that M40 grade, M50 grade, M30 grade, M40 grade, M50 grade, and M60 grade. From starting from 30 Newton per mm squared to 60 Newton per mm squared was designed based on the mixed proportion. So this diffusion coefficient was calculated based on the RCPT value only, rapid chloride penetration value. After that, it is applying in the Burke's equation, the diffusion coefficient was calculated. So there are some notable value. This graph shows that only the particular methacholine replacement, the replacement starting from 2% to up to 14% in all the replacement level, the diffusion coefficient is decreasing. As we know that already, when we use some supplementary cementitious material into the concrete, automatically the diffusion coefficient value is decreasing. The reason because that it will react, the supplementary cementitious material have more amount of the silica content. So there are some free calcium hydroxide left behind. It is unreactive. It is a reactive, but there is no point of the water or the reactive silica is present. So when we are aggravate or creating the reaction of the calcium hydroxide, it will react with the silica content and leads to the denser concrete and increase the strength of the concrete. And also when we modifying the water cement ratio from 0.40 to 0.33, lowering the water cement ratio by improving the strength of the concrete. So here the strength is also increasing, correspondingly the diffusion coefficient is also decreasing. So this shows very clear that the use of supplementary cementitious material will always improve the diffusion coefficient. But it is not in the case of the red mud addition. So the red mud addition up to 10%, it is showing that the decrease in diffusion coefficient. Further, after the 12% and 14%, there are some increasing the value, but that increasing in the amount, it is comparing with the controlled concrete, it is moreover as equal, or sometimes it may be very, very less in amount. The reason why that red mud after 8% or after 10%, there are slightly increasing the diffusion coefficient. Because of that, when I noticed in the chemical composition, there are some alkalis are present, as well as there are unwanted alumina content and iron content are more. Silica content and calcium content are very, very less. So still there are some unhindered of these components, these chemical component, not to react with the calcium hydroxide. So automatically that diffusion coefficient was increased. So particularly for the combination, so this is MR6A, 6B, 6C, 6D. It is showing that the 6% of the replacement of the different proposition, as already I indicated that different propositions are 50:50%. So A is indicated that 50:50%, B is indicated that 70:30%, C is indicated that 80:20%, and D is indicated that C is indicated that 70:30%, and D is indicated that 80:20%. And these are all 8% replacement, 10% replacement, 12% replacement. So in all this replacement level and all the water binder ratio, that the diffusion coefficient is decreasing in well manner. That shows that it have the adding of the supplementary cementitious material always decreasing the diffusion coefficient. Now, when we come to the accelerated corrosion setup, there are two main focuses for the study of the steel corrosion. That one is passivation of the steel in the certain alkaline condition. The another one is the acceleration effect of chloride ion in the pore solution. So initiation of the current corrosion is either due to the reduction in the alkalinity. That is a very first point, because at the later stage, after 10 years or after 15 years, because of the reduction of the alkalinity only, the corrosion starts, the carbonation starts. Carbonation starts, it leads to the corrosion. So here, the initiation of the corrosion is only due to because of the reduction in the alkalinity, and arising from the carbonation and the attack of the chloride ions causes the breakdown of the passive layer. So in this investigation, the percentage loss of weight of the steel reinforcement was calculated by accelerated corrosion. So let me go to the figure. This graph shows that the weight loss measured in grams with the different percentage replacement of the methacholine of a different water cement ratios. It shows that in all the cases, the weight loss in the in the reinforcement is reducing up to 8% and up to 10%, and slightly it is increasing in 12% and 14%. It is only a very limited increasing of the amount, but normally it is not to be considered. So when we talk about the particularly in the addition of the methacholine, the replacement of the methacholine in the semen, so normally it shows that the weight loss it is very less in amount, very quite less in amount. So when we talk about the red mud addition, see that in the red mud addition, so as already told that the purpose of using the red mud is it is acting as a good corrosion inhibitor, which forming a passive layer on the steel means of that high alkalinity content. So due to the high alkalinity content, see that from the replacement starting from the 2% to up to 14%, there is a decreasing in the value of the loss in weight of the steel reinforcement. In the combination of these also shows that there are some reduction in the value, percentage of losses in the value, which all shows that when we use the methacholine and red mud in the combination of 50:50 or either 80:20, that in all the combinations, it will shows the superior property of the corrosion in terms of the loss in weight, percentage of loss in weight is very less in amount. So there are other few more studies have to be made. So due to the time constraint, I want to stop this presentation. So based on the study, rapid chloride penetration and corrosion resistance of the steel, it is well noted that use of supplementary cementitious material always improve the corrosion resistance and decreasing the diffusion coefficient value. So I want to complete my presentation. Thank you for giving me a wonderful opportunity to present the topic in related to the corrosion, and I'm very happy that I am the alumni of CIT. I completed the undergraduate in Coimbatore Institute. So the same institute, I'm presenting my my lecture. It gives me a immense pleasure. Once again, I thank the organizer, Ms. Hannah Angeline, Brinda, and other organizers. And I thank the head of the department, Dr. Sri Shanti ma'am, for giving me a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
If queries, you can please ask me.
We have a question here. Sir,
yes.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm hearing.
And one person wants to know why ternary blended concrete. What does that mean?
See, the ternary blended means addition of two or more material. It is called as a ternary blended. It's a binary means you are adding only one material, replacement with the one material. Now the concrete having a two materials. Ternary means three material. Even you can go for another few more replacement of material, but we have to more cautious to know the property of the material. Whatever any material can be replaced as the byproduct material, but we have to more cautious about the property, how it will affect, how it will change the morphological effect, how it will change the characterization of the material, that we should study. This is called ternary blended.
Okay, next question. Is there any analytical model or methods available to validate or compare the experimental values of the corrosion effects in rebar?
Yes, there are some analytical model you can create with the use of some software. But for the corrosion and the diffusion coefficient, based on the experimental result, that analytical model which will not provide you the good results. There are some literatures are available, but I'm not sure about what is the method or the model to be utilized on which software. I'm not aware about that. I'm more concentrated about only the experimental procedures only.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any questions from the participants? Over to Karthik, sir.
Hello, Ratan Raj, sir.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of Department of Civil Engineering and MHRD Institute Innovation Council, I thank Professor Ratan Raj for giving a wonderful lecture today. And as part of the alumni also, I thank once again for making this day a fruitful day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, participants. We will meet you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I leave?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.